Have you started?
I didn't start. Yeah, I have started.
Just a second. Yes, sir. Please continue.
Can I have the presentation? So
Yes, sir.
we were structuring, drafting the argument. So once you have stated the law, what is academic literature means some research work or debates. You can refer to parliamentary debates, or for instance, some discussions that have been done, or there's certain research papers or viewpoints of illuminaries in that field of law. So that is what is meant by academic literature. So once we have done that, the next is application of the specific law to the specific fact. So we already have the fact, we already have the law. Now we have to connect it. So this is very important because you have to identify why that case law or why that specific law is applicable to you, and why is it applicable to this situation. Is the ratio in both these is ratio in the first case, is it binding on the court in this case, and why is it particular to this fact? So can that same law be applied over here? That is something you will have to convince the court. You at this point you will have to do, you will have to convince the court on why the case laws that you have cited are important, and at the same time you should not evade the points that you find that are are not in your favor. So there might be some case laws that you while researching you find that they are not actually in your favor. You should not evade that. That is a bad practice, because most often sorry, the other party will bring it up, or the judge himself will bring it up. So your what is better option is you bring that up and you say why that is not applicable to the case, why that reasoning cannot be applied here. So that is important. Application of law to the fact, that is the crux, that is where you connect, that is where you come out with your argument, that you're stating that my argument is correct because the law states this, and this law when applied to the facts gives the result that I am arguing. That is the application. That is very important, and you will have to work on that. And once you have stated, you have connected the facts and law, you have done with most important part of the drafting argument, and now you just have to come to a conclusion. The conclusion is usually your argument itself. You can just draft it and say that, so it is most humbly submitted that this petition is maintainable, or whatever it is, that the case is not of that the the legislation is constitutional or unconstitutional. So that is a conclusion. Now conclusion is also very important part in drafting an argument, because when the judge in a memorial, when they look through your arguments, when they see that there is a specific structure, there is a conclusion in every argument, it gives the impression that yes, he is doing it right, he is doing what is important, and he is finding that he's conveying what he means, and he is conveying what is important. So that is up with drafting your argument. Now once, for every that issue that you come up with, you will have to structure the argument this way. And when you have all the arguments structured this way, you are ready to compile it, and you have completed the most important part of the memorial. And just like I said, it cannot be always be final. The first draft you come up with may not be the final you have to submit. So what you do is you keep on researching, you work on it, you make sure that what you have written is correct, and this will in turn gives you a very modified, very streamlined argument that is correct, and it will be very polished one. It will be a very polished argument, and that is why you need to, just like I said, work hand in hand with the research and drafting the argument. So once you have drafted all the arguments of all those issues you have found, you have raised, then you are done with the most important part. Now the most important part you have to do is to structure the whole memorial. I think, can I have the next slide, please? Yes, now I'll just go on to the contents of a memorial, because you have done with the most important part, that's the arguments. You have structured the arguments and you're done with that. Now you have to structure the whole thing. Usually it is the researcher who does this part, but then all the team members can join in, and those who is better in editing can join in. So I'll just most of you will already have a, like I said, already have a copy or some you will have some data to work with on a memory, because some of your senior have done it, or your teacher will provide it, or your tutor is providing it. You can always find many memorials, many award-winning memorials in the internet itself. So I'll just go through some points that I feel is important, or what are important in all these contexts. So the first one is cover page. It's simply easy. You should never forget to add the forum before the case is pending. Always add the name of the court. And most of the time, the teams will, the college conducting the moot court will ask you to add the name of the moot court competition on top, and then you'll have the your team code, and then you'll have to name the parties. Never forget to name the parties, it is important. And once you name the both the parties, you have to submit for whom you are appearing, or the memorial is on whose behalf you are presenting that memorial. You have to do it for the petitioner and for the respondent, but you have to make it clear whose memorial it is, and you have to write that on the cover page. And the next thing is table of contents. In the cover page, I'll mention one thing: you never add the page number in the cover page. It is at the table of contents that you start adding page number. And what table of contents, you have to spend a lot of time, or you will have to spend quite a lot of time, because you will have to keep on changing the page number, because as you refine the memorial, you find that you add something and the page number gets misplaced. What I suggest is in Word there is an option. You can actually make Word auto create the table of contents for you. So make sure you're thorough with Word, and that will help you out. That will save a lot of time. And the table of abbreviations. So this is important. Most of the time, I have seen lots of people doing is they just inject a lot of abbreviations that are very common and that are not even cited in the memorial. So this might become a problem for the researcher when it comes for the researcher interview. They might the examiner might ask, why was this abbreviation given here? He might point out, where is this abbreviation in your memorial? So what you have to do is you have to screen out, you have to include only what all you have used, and make sure you use only that. So that is my point in regard to that. Then the index of authorities, you already know you have to cite the case laws, and you have to write the books, articles that you have referred to, legislations and all that. Make sure you all title it separately, and it is all alphabetically arranged. And make sure that if you want to increase the beauty, just it is preferred that you differentiate between Indian case laws and foreign case laws. I have seen where people have already mix it up, but it's preferable that you are quoting it separately. It also bring out the idea of, that you have referred to foreign case laws as well. So index of authorities, head, give title to each of the authorities, arrange it alphabetically, arrange it, if possible, arrange it in a table, so that will give will give a finishing touch to it, and that is important. And the statement of jurisdiction, this is very important. Never mess up the statement of jurisdiction. At the oral rounds, at the preliminary rounds, they might not notice it, but when it comes to the final rounds, it's usually the judge of a high court, or at times the Supreme Court judges who might be judging you, and they will definitely look into the statement of jurisdiction. and you have to make sure that you're correct. You might be just copy pasting it from another memorial or anything. Make sure you have the correct statement of jurisdiction, and that is the main point why you will be including that, why the case has come out before that form. So make sure that you have the jurisdiction correct and don't copy paste it just mechanically. Apply your mind. And statement of facts, in statement of facts, what I have to suggest is, most of the time they do not include all this cover page, table of contents, abbreviations, authorities in the page numbers needed. But when they say that the whole memorial should be in this many pages, then I suggest is that the statement of facts what they have given in the moot proposition should be shortened. You have to cut out what is relevant, what is not relevant, and you will have to make an edit and point out all those are relevant and make it as short as possible. But at the same time, it should convey all the facts. The judge who comes up for your competition, he might be thorough with the law, but however may not always be thorough with the facts. So he might be getting what 10-15 minutes to deal with the what all facts are there. So it's ideal that you crisp out the facts, or you will have to explain to him. So it's better to just crisp out the statement of facts in the statement of facts. And issues raised, as I have already mentioned, issues raised, you have framed the issues, and always when you're putting it in the memorial, you have to always start with whether and end with a full stop. Make sure it is not the arguments advanced, it is not the arguments advanced, it is the issues raised. So issues raised are always a question of law, or it's very rarely a question of fact when it comes to moots. So it's question of law, and you have to make sure that it starts with a whether and ends with a question mark. And drafting the issue raised in a very beautiful manner is very important. You should not make it more you should not make it very confusing. You should not at the same time make it too simple. You need to include what all are relevant, but at the same time it should have a beauty to it. Those the person reading that issues raised should fully understand, okay, this is the issue, this is why he has raised it, this is the conflict. So that is to that. One person has asked me to explain index of authorities. So index of, I'll just go through it fast. Index of authority meaning you will have to cite all the citations that you are using in your memorial. I'll deal with citations later. I have added that. But index of authorities, you will be pointing out from where all you have collected your research. So one point I have to add, I left it out in the research part. When you research and you find out that something is relevant, you should make it a point to note that down from where you have found it and where you and why you think that is relevant. Because most of the time you feel that, okay, I'll remember it, but in the end you might be struggling to find where you found it. So it is important to note down the citation and where you found it. And the next one is index of authorities. You have to include all the citations that you have made in here, whether it's case laws, whether it's some research material, whether it's a law, whether it's a legislation, or it's a treaty, or whatever it is. You have to include that in the table of authorities. Table of authorities, it should usually it starts with the case laws. So you can say Indian cases, they give it a title, then table out all the cases, then foreign case laws, then you can say legislations, acts, rules and regulations, head out all the then set out all the rules and regulations, then give out all the articles and research papers cited, bring that out in a table, then you can a treaty cited. Okay, that is up to index of authorities. And coming up here, coming back, we dealt with issues raised. Next, summary of arguments. Summary of arguments is, you have to be very crisp with that. You're just stating, this is my argument. You are just giving a summary of all the arguments you have advanced. Summary of arguments, if you have 4 issues, an ideal summary of argument should have only 4 paragraphs. and each paragraph you will just set out what is important. What is important? This is my argument, and in this argument, I'll raise not in first person, but this petition is not maintainable. And in this maintainability, I am dealing with four limbs or four sub issues. Just point out four sub issues that should be crisp as such. In those four paragraphs, you should give the person reading it a brief idea of what you're dealing with in the arguments advanced. Now, moving on to the arguments advanced, we have already dealt with how to draft an argument. Now, the purpose, now what you have to do is arrange it in a systematic manner. That is very important because you have to be uniform in your numbering system if you're choosing an argument. And in that sub issue, you have four sub issues. So you can go from A1, A2, A3, A4, then B1, B2, B3. So that is one way you can go with that. And there are other ways as well. All the arguments, summing up as in uh, you're just pointing out in the your prayer starts with in the race in light of the issues raised, arguments advanced, facts pleaded, this party most humbly pleads that. So it is the remedy that you're seeking from the court. So what should the court declare? The court may declare that, then what all are the price. If you have four issues, then you should point out what all are the specific prayer with regard to what these four issues. What is the answer you want the court to give? What is the judgment you want the court to give? That is the prayer, and make sure that your prayer is correct. And you should never make a mistake in the prayer, and that is very important because it will have a huge impact in the marking, both in the memorial round, both for the memorial as well as for the oral rounds. And now I've gone through the general structure. I'll go through some miscellaneous facts that I feel are important. Next slide, please. I'll just keep it simple. Citations. Okay, citations are very relevant. Just like I said, always you have to follow a uniform form. Usually, the rules and regulations always said that you have to go through, you have to follow a particular form of citations, and usually it's the blue book format. And you have to cite those in that format only. Make sure all the citations that you make are in that format. Sometimes it may not be always possible to refer blue book and make the citation. The blue book, it's a lot, and you may not be always be able to identify all this. So if you are in such a condition, I always prefer to say that you should always follow the blue book format. But if you are not able to do it, make sure all the citations are in a similar way. If or not it's not confirming with the format, if or not it's blue book, make sure it's all the same. It does not, one should be in this way, one other citation is separate way. And cite only from relevant sources, meaning never use you most of you already know, yeah, never use Wikipedia. You're not supposed to use India Kanun. Cite only from relevant sources, relevant as in patra, or you're citing a journal, you're citing Supreme Court cases, or so you're citing Supreme Court almanac. So these are all relevant sources, and you need to identify, you need to learn as a motor, you need to learn which all are the relevant source. Only those citations, only those judgments that comes from a relevant source have validity before the law. And another question I'd like to answer is, most a lot of people have asked me, they can find a specific case law in India Canon, but they cannot find the relevant citation of that particular case in any journal or any online resources that are relevant. So never cite the India Canon one. You should, what I do is, you find that case in India Canon, you can copy a part of that judgment and search that in a proper a journal site or an online site. Meaning, for instance, Manupatra, just search that, copy that judgment, a part of that judgment from India Canon, and paste that in Manupatra, and you can easily find the citation. And cite only those which are relevant. So some cases, I have seen some behavior where you just add up simple cases. You're citing and you got a case from Manupatra and you are citing that in your memorial, and in that that position you find in Manupatra that many other cases are referred in this case. So you just cite all that cases along with in the footnotes. That is not a good practice. Only cite which are relevant, because that is very important, because they'll feel very awkward when you are using that. When you are using a lot of case laws, you are just injecting 10 15 case laws which are not at all even relevant to the case. So only say, preferably I'll suggest making if you're making a point, if you're making a point from a specific case law, make sure that it's from if you it's from one case, or ideally suggest 3 cases. Don't go overboard with that, with the citations. Now that's all with citations. And the next one, next slide please. Thank you. Stick to the rules and regulations. This is very important, because most of the time, whatever it is, stick to the rules. When they say that the formatting should be done in this way, it should be this font, and the spacing should be this, and the mark should be this, make sure you stick to that. Sometimes you might lose marks, not for the formatting, but if you are not conforming to the rules and regulations. They find that you have not submitted when you should be submitting it, and that might be very bad, because it might be a matter of 1 mark you'll be using around, and that is very important. So make sure you stick to the rules and regulations. You don't want to lose just because of that. It might be just a 1 mark difference or even a half-mark difference. You don't want that messing with your rounds or messing with your with. So the next slide. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. Maintaining uniformity. So this is very important, because in a moot court memorial, just like I said, the person correcting it may not have much time to correct all the moot court proposition, all the memorials that come up. So he'll definitely weigh your memorial with the aesthetic beauty it's having. So you should make sure that it is uniform, meaning the numbering should be same, all the pages, the margin should be same, the font should be same, the spacing should be same, page numbers are well maintained. And with regard to page numbers, I would always suggest that when you're numbering pages, it should always go from uh, you should start from table of contents, and you should number that small letter 1, Roman numeral start 1. Just like when you can refer a law book, you can always see that all these table of contents, case laws, they are all numbered as small letter 1, small 2, small 3, Roman numerals in small case. And only from arguments advance you should start numbering from Arabic numerals 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is the preferred usage in law. So stick to that. And word is your ally. This is very important, because editing is very important in a memorial. You need, just like I said, maintain uniformity, maintain the structure, maintain the beauty of the memorial. You can use word to your advantage, because in word you will find a number of options, very a large number of options that you will be able to use. For instance, there is a paragraph symbol that will help you arrange the distant arrange the unwanted spacing. It will help you delete unwanted spacing. It will help you create the table of contents. It will automatically set page numbers for you. So make sure you study word very properly. That is very important. And the last one is finish your memorial much before the deadline. I know it's not always possible, but even I have submitted memorials in the last possible minute. But make it a habit to finish it much before the deadline and get it proofread by multiple others. I mean multiple others, not just your mentors or anyone else, not just your mentors or not just your friends, not just the team members, but any person you can have reading it. Don't ask them for, if you are asking a person who has no background in law, don't ask them opinions on the content. Just ask them to proofread it for any spelling mistakes or any alignment mistakes. And this is very important. When you get it reviewed by so many other people, it polishes your memorial, and you will have the confidence in the memorial you have in your hand. So make sure you finish before the deadline. And now maybe I'll go on to the questions.
Yeah, now we are open for questions. We have 11 minutes left for the session, so you guys can ask your questions.
So I'll go on from mooting. The first question: what do you mean by academic literature? From Pooja Agarwal. I think I have already answered that. Academic literature can mean many things. It can mean the parliamentary debates. It can mean mini research. It can mean articles or discussions that has been taken between illuminaries in that field. Those are all academic literature. For instance, an illuminary has wrote a book on a specific subject, and you forensic science, you can for instance, if the moot is relating to forensic science, then you can quote a famous book or a good book in your moot memorial. That is what I meant by academic literature. And the next question is how to increase fluency in mooting. And there's only one answer to that: you have to practice. Because the first time when you're mooting for the first time, it might be hard for you to use the jargon, so using it fluently. But the only way you can get over with that is you have to keep on practicing. And before going to a moot court competition, rehearse as many times before your friends or before your teammates and before your tutors, academic tutors. They will be able to correct your law, and you'll be able to bring up your confidence to a much higher level. So as you go on with, and when you actually go for a mooting competition, the first round will be the hardest, because you'll be finding it difficult to articulate your arguments, you'll be finding it hard to answer the questions. But once you have done with the first round, and when you move on to your further arguments, you will be able to clearly identify that you are getting better. You can feel it in one mood itself. You can feel yourself getting better. So the only way you can increase your fluency is to practice and practice, and that'll make you better. So index of authorities I have already explained. Then does good formatting and editing play a huge role in memorial? It does. It very well does. Just like I said, the person examining it won't have much time to go through the whole memorial. So he'll weigh your memorial, he'll look at the aesthetic beauty, it'll give the person correcting your memorial the impression that yes, he has invested considerable time in this memorial and he knows what he is doing. So that is important. And when you make sure that there are no spelling mistakes, there are no unwanted gaps in your memorial, it gives them the
Can you please
understanding.
explain the difference? Yeah.
Sorry?
I have a question. Can you please explain the difference between a moot memorial and a drafting a case?
Oh, that is when you're drafting a case, is that question specific to a high court or Supreme Court or to a
Like
lower
this,
court?
yeah, anything you can tell. Like, is there any difference in drafting a moot court memorial and a case, or the content is different and the thing is similar? Like,
No, the research work you do is very similar, but the drafting of the case is very different from that of a memorial, because you don't have specific differentiation between each sections in a drafting in a real case. What you do is give the cause title, then you cite the parties. I'm saying this before the High Court and Supreme Court. then you state the parties, then you just give a summary of arguments that depends on every other high court. The high court prescribes rule for it. You give a summary of your case, and then you just go paragraph 1, you state the facts. Paragraph 2, it goes on just like that. There is no connection between this is the issue, this is my argument, this is my stand on the argument. There is nothing like that. You state the facts, you state your arguments, you then that is all paragraph wise. There is no differentiation. So it's quite different from a real case. And if it's a lower court cases, then there is no law that you will be making. If it's a civil case, in the pleadings, in your plain and your return statement, you will not state any law. It will be purely facts, and you'll, however, bring out the ingredients of the case. For instance, it's a civil suit with regard to a sale in your it's or a breach of contract. You will bring out the specific facts that are important for you, uh, how the party were negligent or was there fraud. You'll bring that out, but you will not state the case. So there is a huge difference between what you do in the memorials for a moot and when you draft a case for the real court. So I'll move on to the remaining
So
questions.
you can take more questions now.
Okay. How do we know that which source is reliable and which sources are not reliable? So this a question, it is you have to do your research on that. It is you need to identify when for instance, take Wikipedia. You will have to use a bit of your common sense and all that in this, because take Wikipedia, any person can be allowed to edit a Wikipedia and there is no authenticity to it. So we can identify that. However, in the case of Manupatra or a journal, so for instance, take Supreme Court cases, Supreme Court Almanac, all those are cited cases and it has a reputation and it is a reliable source. So what you have to do is, when you do your research, you will understand that that all comes with the research part, and only with time and reading and effort that you can identify and research that. So there is no clear cut formula. For instance, you find a research paper. There are two research papers you have in hand, you want to cite in your memorial. So one case research, one research paper might be from a very famous uh, law professor from the University of Oxford or from Harvard, and the other research paper, you can find a plethora of research papers, might be from a law student. So it has
Sir,
on
we have
its,
just 3 minutes left for the session.
okay.
So you can please be a
Okay.
bit faster.
What do you mean by sub issues? Sub issues, and how do you frame sub issues? It's like I said, sub issues that it comes with research, and when you move more on with the arguments and you move on with the research, you will automatically find sub issues. So it comes with the research. What is the research between arguments and our advanced arguments? I believe that's difference between summary of arguments and arguments advanced. Summary of arguments is what they say is just a summary, and advanced argument is you detailing why you're stating it, and it is a detailed version. And the summary of argument is just like the name said, it's a summary. And the next question, how do we draft arguments when one of the issues provided in the proposition is clearly not in our favor? And that is the thing about mooting. The person judging you knows that that side is weak. It is not always possible that all of your arguments are correct or all of your arguments are very strong. So there are points where it is not in your favor. Then and the person judging you, he clearly knows that there is no answer, there is no correct answer, and your argument is weak. There you will have to like lure him with your talent to stand up to that. You'll try to bring out another angle. You make him think, okay, yes, that is that way, but how it could also be that way. Your winning capability will lie on the your ability to confuse the judge to a level. So that is what I say.
There are
And
2 more minutes left.
yes. I'll go through fast. Can I cite an online journal? Yes, you can always cite an online journal. Manupatra, you can always cite that. can you use the official website of High Court or Supreme Court? If you cannot find a proper citation like a Manupatra or Supreme Court cases, then you can always do that, but just give the number of the case. But it's always preferred that you have a proper cited case. And how important is thorough with the bare acts? It is very important being thorough with the bare acts, because that is where you start from. So make sure that try to memorize it. And next question, Manupatra subscription is too expensive, that you'll have to talk with your college about that. Alternatives are you'll have to go through books itself, you'll have to make use of libraries. That is what. If the issues, can I bring directive principles? If the issues related to fundamental rights, can you bring directive principles? It depends. If you can substantiate it, you can bring it. Then yes, we can always include directive principles if it's relating to fundamental rights, but it depends on your ability to bring out your case and substantiate your argument.
All right, so we are now ending the session.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session.
Okay.
And thank you so much, everyone, for attending the session. This session will be live on YouTube by tomorrow. And all right, Devshi, now you can stop the recording and